One of the things that people have a hard time dealing with and digesting, it is to be disappointed in themselves. And it's so challenging because of all the things we make it mean. But our inability to deal with or to navigate self-disappointment is usually causing us to not go after things that we deeply and profoundly desire altogether, to disown the things that are really in tune with what our heart desires. And I would love to discuss how we can begin to transcend self disappointment or to work with it in a way that is really transformative and in a way that does not inhibit your capacity to go after what you truly want. If you're new here, my name is Xavier Dagba, and the purpose of this space is to spark conversations that ignite self liberation. So let's talk about self disappointment. I would assume that no one really likes being disappointed in themselves. Meaning, if you have a desire or an expectation, it makes sense that you would want to reach that. So when we get disappointed in ourselves, usually it brings a whole bunch of things up, especially when we have tied our self-esteem, our self-worth into what we were going after. One of the reasons why it can be so challenging to live with is because it brings up feelings of shame. It brings up it brings up feelings of inadequacy. And usually those are feelings that we have a hard time being with because of, how we internalized failure before, because of eventually how our caregivers made us feel when we didn't achieve things that were really meaningful to them. And we saw failure as being quote unquote a failure or however you have internalized it. These core feelings of how we related to failing the expectations of other people that we looked up to. These are usually the ways we tend to relate to ourselves when we navigate our own failures or self-disappointment. So, or not achieving the things that we desire to do. And that is actually the first starting point. It's like that core emotional charge that you didn't know how to be with, meaning failing the expectations of people you looked up to or people that you really loved and cared about in all the ways that made you feel. That's usually a core emotional charge that initially you get to turn towards. And also, it's crazy how life is working in your favor because every single thing in your life that you are seeing as a failure is basically inviting you to look at that core charge within you, to turn towards it, maybe to be with the younger parts of you that assumed that I am unfit, to be loved if I do not achieve this or if I do not meet the expectations of my parents or caregivers or teachers or whatever, whoever that may have been in your journey. That's the first purpose, failure. And that's even the first purpose of self-disappointment. I tend to think that life is this beautifully balanced system that is always directing you at the parts of your psyche where more integration is needed, where more love is needed, where more self-acceptance is needed. Because the parts of you that you haven't learned how to love yet are also the parts of you that usually run your life in the dark. And that's an invitation to look at that. So self-disappointment and feeling like a failure or failing at something that felt so meaningful to you. It is only going to hurt as much as you have tied your self-esteem into these different things. And what happens when you actually tie so much of your self-esteem into the things that you desire is it makes all these things that you want bigger, so much bigger than you. And it feels like an oppressive force instead of being something that expands you, instead of being something that invites you to reach bigger and I want to say stronger expressions, more empowered expressions of who you are. So that's the first invitation. Now, The other thing that I really want to bring up is it's so important to redefine failure itself. Why is that important? I'm going to use a word that I have a hard time using, that I have a hard time pronouncing. The word is reconnaissance. I think of failure as a reconnaissance mission. And I may be throwing up the pronunciation of this word. For those of you who may not know, my first language is French. Um, and in French, it's really funny because it sounds different. Mission de reconnaissance. I'm basically messing up with my own mind here. Reconnaissance mission. I think of failure as that. Failure is a reconnaissance mission. And the purpose of failure is to give you information. It is not to be used as a reason to beat yourself up. Failure is not meant to be used as a reason to beat yourself up. So the more you start looking at failure as a reconnaissance mission, the more you internalize that the purpose of this is to inform you, not to deflate you. It is to inform you about a few things. And one of the first things that it's informing you about is actually what it truly takes to achieve what you said you desire. What does it truly take? What does it look like for you to really go after it? And the other thing is, it allows you to check if, wow, going after this, or if this is truly worth going after. It allows you to see, oh, do I need to change course? Or do I need to equip myself better for what I am actually desiring right here? So that's another thing. The more you are able to look at all of that as a feedback mechanism, the less it makes you dread the experience of being disappointed in yourself. And actually, what happens there, the even not achieving what you aspire to achieve, it does not hurt that much anymore because you're now just looking at the gift that is there. Now, there's something that comes up when, despite having this perspective in mind, you still beat yourself tremendously for not achieving what you desire. It means that it is so important to look at all the ways you infuse your self-worth into your aspirations. Because if your self-worth keeps being infused tremendously and hugely into the things that you have on your to-do list, into the desires and the goals you have, you're going to dread going after them. You're going to disown them. You're going to look at them as other reasons to kind of like other other reasons why you may lose that self-esteem that already feels a little scarce at times. And that's the perfect recipe to run away from what we truly desire and to live a life that we regret. So with that, there is such a big opportunity to look at all these areas of your life where you are now currently experiencing self-disappointment and to become aware of all the ways you are judging yourself and to become aware of where this has been reflected and modeled to you. And also to reach for the parts of you that you've learned to push against because you did not want to experience that ever again. Is there a part of you that is holding on to a feeling of inadequacy inside? Part needs attention. Is there a part of you that, has been shamed before by people that were truly meaningful because you did not achieve what you set out to achieve? That part needs your attention. And here's where I'm going with it. Until you're able to demonstrate to yourself that you know how to handle the disappointment that comes with not achieving what you expected, you're going to hold back to a certain degree. I'm going to say that again because I truly believe that it's really meaningful. Until you are able to demonstrate to yourself that you are able to deal with the disappointment, which is just normal, the disappointment that comes up from not meeting the expectations that you had on yourself without disowning yourself, it is going to be tremendously challenging to keep going forward, to keep creating, to keep bringing your passion to the world, to keep bringing your most authentic ideas and desires to the world. Because these are the things that we disown first when we dread failure. So I'm going to try to wrap up things here for you. The first key alchemical perspective: failure is a reconnaissance mission. It is not a reason to beat yourself up. It is there to inform you. It is not there to deflate you. It is informing you, second, about what it actually takes to achieve what you said you want. And the second thing it's informing you about is is this desire something that I really wanted to begin with? Do I need to change course? That's another thing it informs you about. The third thing, it is truly important not to make the things that you want bigger than who you are. Create this hierarchy of like, it's almost as if they are some sort of like salvation for you. Because if you are in a space where you are only willing to accept yourself when you achieve that, it's going to create suffering. And that self disappointment is going to be crippling. It means that it is so important to hold ourselves in a space where we are willing to accept ourselves if we never achieve what you desire, if we never achieve what we desire, and at the same time, we are welcoming wholeheartedly the possibility of achieving it in ways that even blow past our expectations. And it's a fine balance. Another thing that is basically at the core is to meet the charge that we often carry inside about all the ways we have been eventually shamed, criticized for not achieving things that we set out to achieve in the past, or for failing the expectations of people that we really loved in the past. Because until you can meet that part of you and integrate that part of you, it's going to keep running your life in the dark as well, especially when it comes to achieving things that you truly desire. It's going to cause you to disown desire. And that's what I wanted to share with you. Failure is always life bringing you in balance. And if you have a hard time working with this, if there's a lot of resistance that is associated to that, there's my free masterclass, The Alchemy of Resistance, that I'm inviting you to look at. It can support you in shifting the resistance that you have about the things that you deeply desire, you know. Let me finish with this. I'm inviting you to like, to subscribe, to share with people that might be interested in this material. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.